So there's this guy in our source material today who actually went out and bought a brand new BMW 3 Series, just like completely convinced it would make him look like a total powerhouse at his new corporate consulting job.
Oh, right. The classic status symbol armor.
Exactly. I mean, he agonized over this purchase for months. And he rolls into the parking lot on his first day, feeling absolutely untouchable, like he is the man.
And then the reality hits.
Yeah, hard. Because within 48 hours, his boss, who is apparently just notoriously incompetent, hands him this massive stack of flat cardboard banker's boxes.
Oh, no!
Yeah, she just points to a corner and tells him to start assembling them so she can pack up her personal books.
Just instantly reduced to doing arts and crafts on the floor.
Totally. And today we're talking about why the things we use to signal our value to the world usually do the exact opposite. So welcome to the deep dive.
It's a pretty brutal reality check, honestly. Because the armor we put on to, protect ourselves in these social hierarchies, it's often the exact thing that exposes our insecurities to everyone else.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that's exactly what we're looking at today. We are diving into excerpts from the book The High Value Man, Principles of Positive Masculinity by Min Lo.
Right.
And the mission here is to dismantle this, completely false roadmap for masculinity that most of us grew up with. You know the one. The expectation that you either have to be this chest-thumping gorilla dominating the boardroom, or you just fade into the wallpaper and let people walk all over you.
Yeah, the alpha versus beta thing.
Right. But the author argues that both of those paths are just complete dead ends. Neither of them actually works.
They don't. And they are dead ends because they're both fundamentally reactions to fear. To really grasp the alternative the author proposes, we have to look at the psychological mechanics of why these two extremes are so broken.
Yeah, we really do.
Let's actually look at the evolutionary biology behind it. Maybe starting with the alpha trap.
Right, because when we hear alpha, the cultural image is, the hyper-aggressive bully, the guy who thinks leadership means never, ever admitting fault.
Exactly.
And the text has this incredible anecdote about a guy the author calls the black belt bully. So this guy was a top-ranking corporate lawyer who literally decorated his office with martial arts trophies and, his military fatigues.
Oh, wow. Subtle.
Right. He was constantly belittling his coworkers, calling everyone weak. He would even wear his military gear into the civilian office on reserve duty days just to, force everyone to acknowledge his toughness.
What's fascinating here is that all of that, the trophies, the gear, the insults, it's a massive, glaring poker tale of deep psychological fragility.
Right, really?
Fragility.
Absolutely.
Well, it makes sense because eventually he dresses down an employee so viciously that she ends up in tears at HR, and the CEO steps in. But the CEO doesn't even yell at the guy. He just gently asks him to tone it down and, be more constructive. And how did the alpha handle that?
He physically cannot handle the feedback. He digs his heels in, starts avoiding the CEO entirely, and within 6 months, he's pushed out of the firm. He just ends up unemployable, working completely alone out of his house.
Yeah, and if we look at the why behind that collapse, it's because this power over dynamic is evolutionarily unsustainable in human society.
How so?
Well, in a primate troop, brute dominance might ensure short-term survival, right? But human beings evolved to survive through complex cooperation. True dominance without pro-social behavior triggers the human brain's threat detection system.
Oh, so he just seemed dangerous.
Exactly. If you're aggressive without empathy, you don't look like a leader. You look like a predator to the rest of the tribe. And what does a tribe do to a predator?
They kick it out.
They isolate it. The black belt bully's inability to accept gentle feedback wasn't strength. His nervous system interpreted a mild correction from the CEO as a lethal threat, which means his baseline state was terror, not confidence.
Wow. Which completely reframes the alpha archetype from a symbol of power to basically a trauma response.
That's exactly what it is.
But then, if we swing the pendulum entirely in the other direction, we hit the beta male trap. Because if the alpha is overcompensating, the beta is undercompensating. And the text provides a painfully relatable story from the author's own life back in his first year of law school. He calls it the French fry fiasco.
Oh man, the French fries. It is the perfect distillation of how conflict avoidance just destroys self-worth.
It really is.
Yeah.
So he's dating this popular girl, completely ignoring just a parade of red flags. They're at a McDonald's 9 months into the relationship. He's just happily eating his fries. And out of nowhere, she turns to him, dead serious, and says, I really hate how you eat 3 fries at once.
It's completely absurd.
Right. I mean, think about your own life for a second. Think
Wow.
about the last time a partner or a boss criticized something completely trivial about you. Did you immediately change your behavior just to keep the peace?
Most people do.
Yeah, because that's exactly what he did. He mutters, oh, sorry, and proceeds to awkwardly eat his fries one by one. And a week later, she dumps him.
A microcapitulation.
Exactly. And the text goes even further with a guy called the blind beta.
Oh, this one is tough to read.
It really is. This guy's girlfriend is literally sitting on other men's laps at parties, resting her head on their chests right in front of him. And he says nothing. She's openly sleeping with coworkers. He says nothing.
It's just total denial.
Yeah, and he actually proposes to her. She says no, and he just stays with her, waiting to try again. But let me push back here for a second. With the blind beta, or the French fry guy, aren't these just guys trying to be nice? Like, they're just trying to survive a toxic situation without escalating it into a big fight.
I mean, it looks like kindness on the surface, but neurologically and psychologically, it's a fawn response.
A fawn response, like fight or flight.
Yes. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It's the power under dynamic. When an animal is trapped and can't fight or flee, it rolls over to appease the aggressor. That's what's happening here. It's not about being nice. It's about a fundamental lack of self-respect.
Oh, wow. So they're just rolling over.
Right. By trading away their boundaries just to avoid tension, these men are signaling to their partners that their internal reality has zero value. And here's the really insidious part.
What's that?
This is actually a form of negative masculinity.
Wait, how is being passive negative masculinity?
Because by failing to assert themselves, they rob their partners of an authentic, grounded leader in the relationship, which then forces the partner to escalate their chaotic behavior just to find a boundary. They're actively enabling the toxicity through their own cowardice.
Man, so if overcompensating makes you a tyrant and undercompensating makes you a target, there has to be a third axis we aren't looking at.
Yes, there is.
The author argues it's not just finding a middle ground between being a jerk and a doormat. It's an entirely different playing field based on internal metrics. Which brings us back to the BMW guy and the concept of the high-value man, or HVM.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's all about the crucial distinction between status and value.
Yeah, because we spend so much time chasing status. The title, the car, the zip code.
Right.
The BMW guy thought the car was his armor. But when his boss handed him those banker's boxes, the author told him to push back. He told him to say, I'm busy, but I can teach you how to assemble them so you can do it yourself.
Which is perfectly reasonable.
Right, that holds the boundary without being insubordinate. But the guy just quietly built the boxes on the floor because he didn't want to rock the boat. And that set the tone for his entire career there.
Because the shiny external object couldn't mask his weak internal mental makeup.
It's like, I don't know, it's like putting a Superman cape on a baby and expecting it to fly. The cape doesn't change the underlying muscle mass.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. I mean, if we look at the sociology of this, status is external, right? It is conferred upon you by society, and society can take it away.
Yeah, you could lose your job tomorrow.
Exactly. Value, however, is internal. High value isn't the value others place on you. It is the uncompromising baseline of respect you demand from yourself.
So the BMW guy just completely failed that test.
He did. He signaled that his time and dignity were worth less than his fear of an awkward conversation with a bad boss. People treat you exactly the way your nervous system permits them to treat you. True value radiates outward from that rock-solid internal foundation.
Okay, I buy the theory, cultivate internal value. But how does the author expect us to actually rewrite our nervous system? Like, if you've spent 20 years being the nice guy, you can't just flip a switch.
No, he can't.
And this is where the text introduces the 80-20 rule, which I found fascinating because it completely upends the whole self-help industry's obsession with adding new aggressive traits to your personality.
Right, he relies on Pareto's principle. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. But in this case, Nassim Nicholas Taleb's concept of addition by subtraction is the engine.
Addition by subtraction.
Yeah. You don't become high value by memorizing alpha male pickup lines or practicing some fake power walk.
Yeah.
You achieve 80% of your transformation simply by shedding the negative, value-lowering behaviors you already have.
So what does this all mean? Like, practically speaking, it's not about adding a bigger engine to a hot air balloon. It's literally just cutting the sandbag so it rises naturally.
Exactly. The neediness, the apologizing, the seeking of validation, those are the sandbags.
Let's really dissect a few of these sandbags, starting with over-apologizing. The text mentions a guy in Hong Kong who was literally on his knees in public, letting his girlfriend slap his face, apologizing profusely for some minor grievance.
It's just incredibly tough to watch.
Yeah, that is extreme. But we all know people who apologize for their mere existence, right? Like someone bumps into them at the grocery store and they apologize. What is the psychological void that behavior is trying to fill?
Well, over-apologizing is an anticipatory defense mechanism.
Hmm.
Evolutionarily, if you offended a dominant member of your tribe, you could be exiled, which meant death.
Right.
So the instinct to appease is ancient. But in the modern world, when you constantly apologize for taking up space, you are essentially broadcasting a continuous signal to the tribe that says, I am of low rank, I am a burden, please don't hurt me.
Wow.
And the tragic irony is that this constant appeasement doesn't trigger safety or empathy in other people. It triggers disgust.
It's Gus. That's harsh.
It is, but it makes people instinctively trust you less, because someone who won't defend their own right to exist certainly won't defend anyone else.
Man, that makes so much sense. That explains why it feels so uncomfortable to be around someone who is constantly saying sorry.
It's unsettling.
And it ties directly into the next sandbag, which is prioritizing being liked over being respected, like trading away your own authentic opinions just to avoid tension.
Yes, the chameleon effect.
Yeah.
Trying to perfectly mirror whoever you are talking to so nobody gets mad at you. But again, the psychology here is a paradox.
Wow, so.
The harder you try to fit in, the more you project neediness. And neediness is the ultimate attraction killer. When you need validation from another person to feel okay, you are energetically leeching off of them. You are demanding they manage your emotional state.
It's exhausting for the other person. But when you stop doing that, when you cut those sandbags and operate from a place of a full cup, you stop trying so hard. You stop caring if someone disagrees with your movie opinion. And by caring less, they actually respect you more.
It is the great paradox of human nature. Letting go of the desperate need for approval is the exact mechanism that generates approval.
But the author doesn't just leave us with what to stop doing. Once you've scrubbed your operating system, there are these active value enhancers. Here's where it gets really interesting, because this is where the biology gets really granular. Let's talk about speech patterns. The text points out that high-value people might talk more in an interaction, but crucially, they pause significantly more.
Right. Pausing is a territorial claim over time.
I love that phrasing. A territorial claim.
When you rush your words or immediately fill a silence, your nervous system is essentially saying, I know my time isn't valuable, so I'll hurry up and get out of your way. Holding the floor with a comfortable, deliberate pause shows a complete absence of anxiety.
And the vocal pitch. The author actually admitted that when he was younger and talked to a girl he found attractive, his voice would automatically go higher and softer to accommodate her.
A very common reaction.
I've absolutely caught myself doing this when talking to a CEO or someone intimidating. Why does our voice betray us like that?
It's purely physiological. When your brain perceives a social threat like talking to someone you deem higher status, your amygdala triggers the sympathetic nervous system.
The fight or flight again.
Exactly. Your heart rate increases, your breathing gets shallow, and the muscles around your larynx actually tighten. That physical constriction in your throat raises the pitch of your voice.
Oh, wow.
So a high-pitched, accommodating voice is an involuntary, subconscious submission signal. A grounded, high-value person maintains their relaxed vocal tonality, regardless of whether they are speaking to a barista or a billionaire.
That makes so much sense. The tension is literally choking the vocal cords. The same principle applies to eye contact, right? Which the author describes as a nonverbal dominance contest.
Got it.
We've all felt that awkward moment when you lock eyes with a stranger. The person who breaks eye contact first and looks down usually ends up as the lower perceived status person in that split-second dynamic.
And that ties directly into the neurobiology of what the author calls outstressing. This is perhaps the most important technical concept in the entire source material.
Yes, outstressing. Break this down for us, because it sounds like it means stressing someone else out, but it's actually the opposite.
Exactly. Studies of social hierarchies, both in primates and humans, show that lower status individuals carry much higher levels of cortisol.
The primary stress hormone.
Right. They're constantly scanning for threats. The true secret to projecting positive masculine presence isn't about puffing out your chest or artificially deepening your voice. It is simply remaining as physically comfortable and relaxed as possible in the face of social tension.
So relaxation is the weapon.
It is.
Hmm.
Because of mirror neurons in the human brain, we subconsciously mimic the physiological states of the people around us.
Oh, so it's contagious.
Highly contagious. If you enter a high-stakes meeting or a conflict with a partner, and your heart rate is low, your breathing is deep, and your posture is open, no crossed arms, no fidgeting, your relaxed state actually subjugates the nervous systems of the stressed people in the room.
That is wild.
They will subconsciously sink to your calm. You naturally outstress the room by being the one person who refuses to succumb to the tension.
Okay, that is profound. You're
Yes.
overriding their anxiety with your calm.
Yeah.
Let's actually put this to the test with a real-world scenario from the book. Let's give the French fry fiasco a do-over. How does the relaxed, high-value man handle that absurd criticism?
Well, to recap the broken models, the beta fawned,
Mhm.
apologized, and ate the fries one by one. The alpha would perceive the criticism as a lethal insult, yell, maybe throw the fries and storm out. Both are defensive cortisol spikes.
But the high-value man, his core self-esteem is so solid that a silly comment about French fries just bounces off him.
Right.
He doesn't get defensive. He reframes it with amusement. He laughs, looks at her, and says, "Baby, if my mouth were big enough, I'd eat 8 at a time. Let me eat these quicker so I can get back to shopping." And then he just keeps eating them 3 at a time as if nothing happened.
That is the essence of charismatic assertiveness. He enforced his boundary. He's going to eat his food how he wants, but he did it with a low heart rate.
Yeah, no drama.
No histrionics. He completely diffused her irrational test by refusing to match her chaotic energy.
It's brilliant. But to build that specific mental muscle so you can stay calm in the moment, the book offers a few daily exercises. The first is brain loops, which is basically repeating daily affirmations in the shower, like, "The world is on my side," just to slowly overwrite that baseline negativity.
Good foundation.
But the one I really want to dig into is the grounding exercise, because on paper it sounds ridiculous.
Ah, yes. The somatic experiencing technique.
Right. The author tells you to stand with your feet planted, imagine your mind sinking down your spine, and visualize roots growing out of your legs deep into the earth. And then, and this is the part where I thought, wait, I'm supposed to do this in my living room. You raise your arms, jump up and down slightly, and repeatedly shout, "Ha ha ha," from your diaphragm for a full minute. What is the actual science behind jumping around and shouting?
It's rooted in the work of trauma specialists like Peter Levine. Have you ever watched a nature documentary where a gazelle barely escapes a lion?
Yeah, they usually run away and then stand there shaking.
Exactly. The gazelle will physically shake for a few minutes. That shaking is a biological mechanism to discharge the massive buildup of adrenaline and cortisol from their nervous system.
Oh, wow.
Humans have the exact same biology, but our social conditioning tells us we look crazy if we shake or shout after a stressful event. So we trap that stress in our bodies.
We just swallow it.
Right. That grounding exercise, the jumping, the deep diaphragmatic shouting, it stimulates the vagus nerve. It forces your body out of the anxious, sympathetic fight or flight loop and manually boots up the parasympathetic nervous system.
Which is your rest and digest state.
Exactly. It physically dispels neurotic energy so you can actually achieve that relaxed, outstressing state we talked about.
So it's literally a biological reset button. That makes the final exercise make total sense, which is visualization.
Yes, this one is very powerful.
If you need to be assertive, but you feel yourself shrinking and getting anxious, the author says to close your eyes. Imagine the exact scenario, but replace yourself with a small, helpless child who is being wronged in that exact same way.
It's a genius way to bypass our own ego.
Completely. Because if someone treats me badly, my brain might say, well, maybe you deserved it, don't cause a scene. But if I imagine a 5-year-old being spoken to that way, the mama bear instinct kicks in immediately.
You're tapping into a grounded, righteous conviction to protect an innocent boundary. It completely shifts your framing from self-conscious anxiety to resolute action. You are no longer defending your bruised ego. You are defending an objective standard of respect.
So bringing it all together for everyone listening, becoming a high-value man, or really a high-value person, because this applies across the board, isn't about buying a luxury car to impress your boss or memorizing alpha male tactics to dominate your coworkers.
Not at all.
It is about a fundamental internal shift. It's cutting the sandbags, shedding the needy, validation-seeking habits, over-apologizing for your existence, and learning to handle social tension with a relaxed nervous system. Charismatic assertiveness.
Recognizing that your value is self-generated, not externally awarded.
Exactly. Because this deep dive is about your actual day-to-day life. I want you to look at your workplace, your relationship, your friendships. Where are you prioritizing the illusion of harmony over your own self-respect? Where are you eating the French fries one by one just to avoid an uncomfortable conversation?
This raises an important question, though. We've spent this time talking about individual psychology. But if you zoom out, look at how our society operates today.
Yeah.
We are culturally obsessed with external status metrics. We're constantly seeking likes, followers, and performative job titles to mask our internal insecurity. In many ways, our entire global culture is stuck in the alpha male trap. We're desperately overcompensating on a massive scale.
Wow, that's so true.
What would happen to our culture, to our politics, to our media, to our relationships, if everyone simultaneously decided to stop trying so hard? What if we drop the performative dominance and just focus on building our own internal baseline of self-respect?
Just a collective cutting of the sandbags. No chest thumping, no doormats. This grounded reality. Think about that the next time you feel the urge to apologize for taking up space. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.